Good morning to all. I, Dr. Zoheb Hasan, Assistant Professor Psychology, Department of Humanities and Social Sciences, Integral University, Lucknow. It gives me immense pleasure to welcome you all to the third day of our virtual national seminar on the Indian knowledge system organized by the Department of Humanities and Social Sciences at Integral University, Lucknow. We had a fantastic start over Morrow, filled with insightful discussions and stimulating exchanges of ideas. Today, on the last day of our seminar, we continue our journey into the rich and diverse heritage of Indian knowledge. Now, I would like to invite Dr. Soumya Pandey ma'am to introduce our speaker.
Good morning, everyone. I'm honored to got the opportunity to introduce sir. I, Dr. Soumya Pandey, welcome you, sir.
Thank you.
Doctor.
I hope I am audible. You can hear me?
Yes. Now I'm going to introduce Dr. Zoheb Hasan, sir. He's an assistant professor and head Department of History, Pune College of Art, Science and Commerce, Campus, Pune, affiliated by Savitribai Phule, Pune. Sir has done his PhD from Aligarh Muslim University in April 2012, and the title of thesis was Nationalism in Mobilization in Kanpur City, 1919 and 47. Sir has cleared UGC GRF, and he is currently designated as a current working assistant professor and head Department of History, Pune College of Arts, Science and Commerce, and he has done his services at Ramjas College, affiliated to Delhi University, 2022, 22 Feb to 2013 to 22nd May 2013, and he is assistant professor as Bharati College, affiliated to Delhi University from 2 August to 2013 to 10 December. So has many research publications, and he is expert area in European history, modern India and modern world history. Now, stage is yours, sir.
Okay. I hope I am audible. You all
Yes,
you,
sir,
you
you
can
are.
hear me?
Yeah, you are
Okay.
audible, sir. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So first of all, I am grateful to the Integral University, the organizers of this conference, for giving me the opportunity to interact with the students and staff of Integral University. It's my pleasure. And as we are all aware that in the new curriculum based on NEP or National Education Policy, Indian knowledge system occupies a very prominent place. In fact, there have been workshops and sessions on the same. I attended one in a college in Pune only, few months back, and the main purpose is to foster and to inculcate in students an appreciation for the traditional Indian knowledge and systems which existed in our country. And as we are all aware that India has been a civilization since millennia, ancient millennia, the tendency in modern times to see everything from the prism of the West, or what the Western world has set the benchmark to know what is progressive, what is regressive, what is good, what is bad, that needs to be changed now. So with this aim in mind, this whole concept of Indian knowledge system has been incorporated. And essentially speaking, we as Indians should understand this, that our culture, our civilization now, as I chose the topic historical perspectives of the Indian knowledge system, you see, if we start the topic, if we start talking on the theme, let me start it with the Indus Valley civilization, okay, or the Harappan civilization as we know it. Now, those of you who are students of history must be knowing that in ancient times, there were four inbuilt civilizations, progressive civilization that existed. I mean, we cannot use the word civilization for every country, for every culture. Civilization is essentially speaking means when you have a settled life, you know certain practices like agriculture, farming, you have code of conduct, how to govern, and you are conscious of your duties. You have the knowledge to do certain things effectively, and there's a proper system. So it is heartening that in ancient times, there were four civilizations, generally classified as civilizations. The first, of course, is the Egyptian civilization, which originated near Nile River in Egypt. The Chinese civilization, originating in the eastern part of China, mainly that Yangtze River Delta. We had the Mesopotamian civilization, which is modern day Iraq, near Tigris and Euphrates River. And then, of course, we have our own Harappan civilization or Indus Valley civilization, which originated in the Indus Valley. And it incorporated, now of these four civilizations, the Indian Valley civilization was the second largest after the Chinese. Our civilization was larger than Mesopotamia or Egypt. And if we look at this, we will know that it existed in its mature phase for almost 800 years. For 800 years, it existed in its mature form, which means from 2500 BC to 1700 BC. Okay, so this effectively puts it some 4,000 years before Christ, or 4,500 years before Christ. So imagine a civilization that existed for well over 800 or 900 years, and it is not in its existence that we take pride or we are proud of it. The lasting legacy of Indus Valley civilization has been in certain things which are the advances of the modern age. I mean, you talk about town planning, you talk about the great granaries of Harappa and Mohenjo-daro, you talk about the urban settlements. All this existed in the Harappan civilization, and it was a novelty of the age. The historians and archaeologists are puzzled that how in such a civilization, such people, the Harappans, were able to do all this. And that too 4,000, 4,500 years before from now. So this is a point of appreciation for us. This is a moment for us to reflect upon, to praise it. And it is saddening also that once the civilization ended, this technique was lost for a considerable period of time, because after that, the civilizations which arose or the kingdoms that came up didn't possess this kind of knowledge. So the thing is that we had this civilization which was well ahead of its time, a novelty of its time, and it left a lasting impact on the minds and thoughts of historians, that how they viewed ancient India. Furthermore, because those of you who are students of history must be knowing that one age ends, it gives rise to another age. One period ends, the another period commences. Continuity is there. Okay. So after the Harappan civilization, we had the Vedic age. Again, here also, the four Vedas, Rig Ved, Yajur Ved, Sam Ved, and Athar Ved, constitute the epitome of ancient knowledge and religious philosophy, which has had a deep impact on, again, on the minds and thought process of the Indians. Now, if we talk about the Indian knowledge system, you see, the knowledge, according to traditional Indian system, is divided into three things. We have Jan, then we have Darshan, and we have Vidya. Okay. So Darshan, Jan, and Vidya. Darshan, as you know, is the philosophy, a philosophical system. Okay, how we look at the things. And Jan is the knowledge, through reflecting what kind of knowledge we get. And Vidya is the reconstruction or the classification of that knowledge. Once you obtain knowledge, you classify it, you compartmentalize it into various parts. Knowledge is a broad subject, it caters to many things. So that is Vidya. And Darshan is the philosophy, the mind, the bent of mind which you apply to obtain knowledge. Jan itself is the knowledge which you have acquired, and Vidya is the assimilation or the constitution of that knowledge. This has been the fulcrum, this has been the main the main thing in acquiring knowledge. The ancient Indian sages and seers emphasized on these three things, and accordingly, the knowledge was derived from it. So, when we talk about the Vedas, they constitute the earliest, perhaps, religious text of the world. Orally transmitted, they were written. Of course, the evidence which we have suggests that the Rig Veda was compiled in 1500 to 1600 BC, that is 3,500 years before the birth of Christ. And over the years, it has been transmitted in oral form to the people, to the learned class. We don't know exactly the authorship of the Vedas, who the people who wrote the Vedas. It is, most of it is in poetic form, all of you know. But the thing is that the text has its relevance, and it has continued to impact and reflect on the nature and the working and the thought process of the Indians. All of you who are aware or who are students of ancient history know that Rig Veda basically is a collection of hymns dedicated to the deities, the gods. And the most prominent of which was Indra. Then we have the Yajurved, which basically deals with the sacrificial formulae, what kind of sacrifices, what kind of mantras are to be recited. We have the Samved, which deals with the rituals, okay, which are to be followed. And the last book of the Vedas is the Atharved, which is basically a set of charms and spells to wander off evil souls and spirits. A book of magic, you can say. Now, it appears interesting to me because you see, so much focus, so much emphasis has been laid. I mean, if you read the Vedas, you come to know about various practices, various things which the Aryans, which the people were doing in India. And through these Vedas only, many other streams of knowledge mushroomed. They originated from the Vedas only. So, just as I mentioned about the three types of knowledge, Darshan, Jan, and Vidya, the entire body of organized knowledge is divided into two sets in the Mundak Upanishad. Now, Upanishad is the later work, which means the literal meaning of the Upanishad is to sit down, to listen, okay? Vedas means to listen, Upanishad means near to it. So, in Mundak Upanishad, which is an Upanishad, the entire organized knowledge is divided into two sets. The knowledge of the ultimate principle, which is Paramatma or Brahman, that is the metaphysical domain, and the knowledge that is secondary to the means by which one grasps Akshar Brahman. Akshar Brahman means knowledge of the worldly domain. So we have the two sets of knowledge, the Paramatma or the Brahma, ultimate knowledge, and the Akshar Brahman, which means the worldly knowledge. So because we live in this world, we reflect upon what is happening in our surroundings, how this world is composed, what are the activities, what are the things that have gone into making of this world, how people live, how they do things and all. And of course, ultimate reality, the Brahman is the supreme creator or this whole universe. Okay. So again here, distinction is accordingly made between Jan and Vijnan. Now the Jan and Vijnan, again, which implies the knowledge of facts of the perceptible world. You see, there is too much of dynamism in the ancient Indian teaching system or ancient learning system. The people, the sages, the seers who composed all these things, they were very much puzzled and very much interested in what makes this world go round. Okay, whether what we are seeing from our eyes or what we are grasping from our intellect, how it is possible, how it has come into being. Okay, is the sensory world which appears to us illusory, or there is some hidden motive behind this what we are seeing? So you see, the whole process is so intertwined that the sages and the seers were reflecting upon these things, that what has gone into the making of this world, how our senses are, whether our senses are illusory or they are telling us the right thing, and what can we make of this knowledge which we are in the process of obtaining or which we are striving to achieve. What will be the end outcome of this knowledge? Okay, so all this reflects to dynamism, a sense of dynamism and a sense of, you can say, eagerness to learn. Okay, now according to Bhartrhari, he's a ancient saint sage, he says that knowledge is constituted in the inner self. There is antarajan, constituted by the input of the senses, indriya, possessed by the mind, and the intellect, buddhi. And finally, constituted knowledge exists as our transformed alert self, chitta. So you see again, the whole focus is on knowledge. How to acquire knowledge, how to disseminate knowledge, what has been the purpose of acquiring knowledge, how knowledge is beneficial to us. And again, in ancient India, though the religious texts, the Vedas, were being compiled, after some period of time, we hear of various schools of philosophy that flourished in ancient India. We have the Nyaya system, we have the Sankhya system, we have the yoga, which has gained much popularity, which is now a global phenomena. United Nations had declared a day for it to be observed, National Yoga Day, thanks to our Prime Minister, Shri Narendra Modi. And then we have the Mimamsa, Uttara Mimamsa, and Purva Mimamsa. So these are 5 or 6 philosophy of knowledge. Now, why I'm telling you all this? See, because when we talk about the modern West, what kind of philosophical systems were there? You had Plato, you had Aristotle, 2 chief philosophers of the Greek world, and our systems, our bent of philosophy, the philosophical systems which were existing in India were centuries older than Plato and Aristotle when they appeared in Europe. So India is not, you can say, indebted to Greece or Greek civilization, Greek intellectual thought. India had its own intellectual thought much before the modern philosophers appeared on the European landscape. And of course, in the Middle Ages, of course, in Europe, we find a range of philosophers, Descartes, we have Spinoza, we have then Locke, Hobbes, Berkeley, Hegel, Marx, all that. But that is in Middle and Little Middle Ages, modern times. Okay, we are talking about the ancient times. So again, this is being told with this thing in mind, that look, in ancient India, there was so much to discover and so much to learn and so much to reflect upon, that practically we have lost the relevance and the importance or the insights which we can gain by going through this. So with this aim in mind only, this whole Indian knowledge system has been crafted. Okay. Again, as I just now mentioned about the Vedic period or the Vedic age, you see, in every culture, in every society, there are pros and cons. Okay. No civilization has been perfect, completely perfect. There are aberrations, you can say. There are certain things which would not be to our liking, and most certainly not in these modern times which we are living in. But I guess that to compare any civilization, any ancient civilization, with the yardstick of the modern times will be uh, a little bit of, you can say, a little far-fetched. Okay, not kind enough. So the corpus of literature, the Vedas, and then we have the Upanishads, we have the Brahmanas. Okay, what these constitute? Again, they constitute knowledge. Okay, they constitute those great philosophical advances featuring the relevance of the self, the purpose of the world, the forces involved in our creation, the duties of the human beings, what they should do, what has been the purpose of our existence on this planet, okay, and how we should live in this world, okay. The Indian mind is acutely taxonomic and a layered structure of the text, okay. Now, you can say the primary text, the Rig Veda, the Yajurveda, the Samveda, the Atharveda, are not expository. They do not give the history, they explain the methodology of constituting knowledge. Okay. They simply state the conclusions, whether they are categorical or declarative sentences. But you see, the thing is that they appeal to our intellectual dynamism. They appeal to our intellect. Okay. The thing is that we should give a time to reflect upon the intellectuality, the wisdom, and the ideas which these sages had in their mind when they compiled these texts. Okay. Literature is vast. Of course, in the written form, we don't have much corpus from the ancient world. The earliest manuscripts of the ancient ancient India date back probably to 14th century in written form. We don't have the from the ancient times any written works preserved. Okay, the earliest. So this is a gap there. But we do have the narrations. We do have the observations of philosophers, of thinkers, of sages, and we can make out what was there. Now, you see, when it comes to literature, apart from Vedas and Puranas and Upanishads, we also had two epics in Mahabharata and Ramayana. Okay, and Mahabharata has been universally accepted as one of the greatest epics written ever. Okay, it has been universally accepted, and Ramayana again also has been accepted, though not in that form as Mahabharata, but it has been taken as a beautiful work of an ideal son who is according to who, because to fulfill the need, to fulfill the duty and his commitment and his obedience to his father, forsakes his kingdom and goes into exile. The message being conveyed is that look how an ideal son and an ideal man should live. Okay, in this sense, Ramayana is more appealing to human tendencies than Mahabharata, because in Mahabharata again we have the this thing of basically it is a saga of conflict between Pandavas and Kauravas. Okay, much has been there. Most of it has been reflected on this theme of the epic. But in Ramayana, we find, although there is also the killing of Raman and all that thing, but the primary uh, objective, the crux of that epic is basically an ideal human being, okay, in the form of Sri Ram, who was an ideal son, a good king, and who fulfilled a great penance, who did a great penance by wandering in jungles for 14 years, simply because his father said so. Okay. So my point is here is to bring this notion that, look, the themes which these texts reflect again are obedience, uh, you can say kindness, and all those characteristics which make an essential a good human being. Coming to again the development of literature, much has been there in ancient India, which we have heard, but we have never studied properly. I mean, it is left for, of course, for the historians and scholars to reflect upon the the content of uh, these works which were compiled in ancient India. But let me tell you a few. For example, if we talk about, say, Arthashastra of Kautilya or Chanakya, perhaps the most splendid book on statecraft ever written. And he was doing the things, he was telling the things which Machiavelli told us centuries later. Okay. And it was not just simply how to acquire power and how to rule, but he laid down an entire principle of how to conduct your operations, what should be the duty of a general, what should be the duty of the king, and what should be the duty of his or her subjects, what role women have to be assigned in the society, how husbands have to live to their women, many things. Okay. And we know simply it as a text on just statecraft. It is not simply a text on statecraft. Okay. It encompasses many things, complete life. Okay. And the you can say the observations and the wisdom of Chanakya was so unique that he was able to convince and make his disciple, his client Chandragupta Maurya successful in carving out India's first empire, the Mauryan Empire. Okay. So here you have again an example of a philosopher who, through his observations on statecraft, was able to convince his student. Chandragupta Maurya was his student only, in a sense that he accepted, he used to look upon Chanakya as his guru. That, look, you have to excel in these things to become master. Okay. We'll not go into the details of why he did this, because now it has been said that the earlier dynasty before Mauryans came to power was of the Nandas, and the last ruler of the Nanda dynasty had insulted Chanakya, who was in his court, by the way, originally. And to avenge his insult, he said that I will make you lose your kingdom. He groomed Chandragupta Maurya, and then he was successful. So let us, this is the thing which we have studied. But my point here is to reflect upon the wisdom and the ability of Vishnugupta or Chanakya or Kautilya, and how he was able to convince Chandragupta Maurya that, look, the time has come for you to strike and to create your own destiny. Now, Arthashastra says that, I'm talking here about Arthashastra now, which comes to the literature, which is a part of Indian literature, ancient Indian literature. Okay. He says that administration cannot be the rule of one man, just as a one vehicle cannot move the entire cart. When we see bullock cart or horse cart, it usually has three wheels. No, so all these three wheels, when they are set in motion, the cart moves. So he says that administration cannot be the role of one man. One lone man cannot carry the administration, just as the one wheel cannot move the cart. Okay. So again, he emphasizes on the need for an administrative setup, ministers, and how the king should conduct his affairs. Okay. All these things, if you look upon, were there in India. Okay. And much of our understanding of, or our present day formation, of government and the council of ministers and the cabinet ministers and the prime minister and all goes back to these things only. He gave, in fact, in the Mauryan Empire, there was a system of Mantri Parishad, the king being the power center, the being the chief, just as the prime minister today is, and his cabinet and his officials, then governors, all incorporated, all uh, appointed in the various parts of the empire. So you see Mauryan Empire, which again is a 2,200 or 2,200 to a 30-year-old empire. It has so much similarity with our modern day dispensation. Okay, so have we really appreciated this or have we reflected upon this? I cannot say. But again, here the purpose of the Indian knowledge system here again is to reflect on this principle, to make students aware that look, whatever has been told to you, whatever you have studied it, okay, it's fine. But there was so much in our ancient Indian culture and system that people generally don't give a thought about. Okay. So this is the notion. Then we had two religions which originated in India. You look upon the religions of the world, it can be effectively divided into two: Western and Eastern. Okay, the Eastern faiths and the Abrahamic faiths. The Abrahamic faiths, of course, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. There were many other religions, pagan religions also, but all that have died down. So in today's world, we have, if I'm not mistaken, 9 or 10 existing faiths. The Abrahamic faiths, or the faiths that originated in West Asia, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. But we have the Eastern faiths, the Eastern religions, which originated in the eastern part of our globe. That is basically in India and China. So in India, we had the Hinduism, which is perhaps the most populous and the dominant religion in the subcontinent. Then we have Buddhism and Jainism in ancient India. And we have the Sikhism, which is not a part of ancient India, which originated in the medieval times. So India gave two religious systems to the world, Buddhism and Jainism. And Buddhism, is the third most widespread religion after Christianity and Islam. Although its adherents are less when compared to Hinduism, but it is more widespread, that you have countries like Thailand, Laos, Myanmar, Sri Lanka, Bhutan, significant parts of Japan and China, where people profess Buddhism. And two teachers, Mahavir and Buddha, were born in India. And Buddha came to be recognized, came to be known as the light of Asia. He was known as the light of Asia. So they gave us a religious system. Now it is debatable again that they arose because of some excesses of the Hinduism, some evil practices which came into Vedic Hinduism. But the thing is that if there were any evil practices that were prevailing in Vedic Hinduism, the Hindus were later able to rectify it. And you see, although Buddhism and Buddhism originated in India, it never gained that acceptability in modern times, which it gained in other countries. So, okay. But why it is important again that we had Buddha, we have his system of philosophy, we have his teachings, which is again noble, based on ahimsa, non-violence, and appealing to all sections of the people. Similarly, Mahavir, who is the founder of Jainism, a little bit in contrast to Buddha, because Jainism, again, has some things which are of a very extreme kind. But when compared to Buddhism, Jainism was able to maintain its foothold in India as it was when it was founded by Mahavir. Jainism has consolidate themselves, okay, in Indian subcontinent compared to Buddhist. So this is darshan again. Buddha darshan, Jain darshan. Okay, philosophical. There's too much of philosophy incorporated in these systems, these religious systems. Okay, so they were they originated from this land. So my uh, observation again here is that why they originated in India? Why not in some other country? Because India had the fertile soil for these systems to grow. India had that conducive environment for these systems to grow. And moreover, in ancient India, the sages, the seers, they have always reflected on this thing that look, there can be many paths to one reality. You can have many understandings of things, and they all can be assimilated. No one truth is there. There can be many truths. Okay, there can be many truths, and it is the harmonious existence of intermingling or of living with harmony with all the observations, with all the truths, with all the findings, which constitute an ideal society. So here again, you have this thing which reflects upon the wisdom, which tells us about the thought process that went on in the making of or in the coming of these cultures, these civilization, these religious systems and all. And of course, we had the best of universities in ancient India. Nalanda is there, which is being revived by the government of India. The university at Takshashila, the university at Vikramshila, Bihar. Takshila, of course, the Taxila now, which is in Pakistan. Great centers of learning. Fahiyan came to India in the Gupta age. Huizang came to India during the time of Harsha. He has full some praise for the Indian scholars of their knowledge, of their merits. His only complaint about India was that the law and order is not well maintained. Huizang has written this in his book that everything is so unique, so great. He came for the original Buddhist manuscripts into India from China. So China is indebted to India, okay, in this sense. And there are people coming from the eastern part of the world. China itself was a great civilization, and it had to its credit many things which it invented. But there, from there also, sages are coming to India to learn about the Indian knowledge system, to gather and to collect texts about their religion. So Huizang, I gave you one example. Similarly, in Gupta times, Fahiyan came to India. Then, of course, it will not be complete without the mentioning of the advances the ancient Indians made in science, particularly in medicine, in mathematics and geometry. We are all aware of the feats of Aryabhat, Brahmagupta, Bhaskaracharya, Varahamir, all these great scientists, men of science. They lived in the Gupta age, and Indians knew the decimal system. Indians knew how to calculate the value of pi. Indians were well acquainted with trigonometry. All this has been elaborated upon. All this has been accepted now. The invention of zero is attributed to Aryabhat. India's first satellite is named after him. In the field of medicine, Ayurveda is India's lasting gift to the world. It is now a major science, which you have doctors who are specializing in this discipline. The government has created the Ayush department for the same. And it has existed since thousands of years and continued to progress and flourish, reflecting upon the dynamism of the people, of the learners, of the thinkers, of the scientists. Okay, so you have the Charak Samhita, Brihat Samhita. Now, Brihat Samhita, of course, deals with the astronomy, but Charak Samhita, attributed to Rishi Charak, is there. One of the best books on medicine. We have the Sushruta Samhita, the book on surgery. Surgical procedures, surgical things were known to Indians. Okay. So what all these show? Again, that wisdom, intellect, dynamism. And in this age, in Gupta age, we also have a great amount of Sanskrit literature that flourished. Kalidas lived in this period. So his plays, Raghuvansham, Meghdut, Abhigyan, Shakuntalam, Kumar Sambhav and all, he is considered to be Shakespeare of India. Kalidas. And one of the Gupta kings, Samudragupta, is hailed as Napoleon of India because he made excessive conquests. But I think these terms should not be used. Why Napoleon of India and why Shakespeare of India? Okay, because Shakespeare and Napoleon came long afterwards, these people. Okay, so with this thing in view, again the perspective here is, what is the perspective here? The perspective here is to appreciate, to reflect upon the ancient Indian knowledge system. And from where does the knowledge arises? Knowledge doesn't create in vacuum. Knowledge is disseminated by the people, by intellectual people, by thinkers who wrote books, who gave us some philosophical thoughts, who told us some things, and upon these things, their disciples and later people start working. It is like an example of a building. You first lay the brick. The first brick is put first, but on that brick, on that edifice, the whole building stands. Whether it was 20 floors, 25 floors, 40 floors, 50 floors, that is different. But the thing is that the whole edifice sprouts upon a single piece of structure. So this is the point here. Okay, when we are talking about the Indian knowledge system, we are appreciating the advances, the intellect, the wisdom, the outlook of our ancient sages, seers, and people who lived in ancient India. And this has been carried to medieval India also. In medieval India, we have the example of Bhakti and Sufi saints, okay, who more than any other worked upon harmony, peace, and how to live a happy and pious life. Said people should live happily. Okay. Again, when we talked about Buddhism, when we talked about Mauryas, I must mention Ashok also, his Dhamma, Ashokan Dhamma, which was a set of rules or conduct to follow for the people. He gave that thing after witnessing a bloody, devastating war in which hundreds of people, thousands of people had lost their lives. So he reflected upon this, that what is the need of war? Why cannot be there peace? Why cannot people live in harmony? So he gave his concept of Dhamma. Dhamme sadhu kiyam tu dhammati, he says. What is Dhamma? Okay. Loosely translated as Dharma. It is not Buddhism, by the way. It was influenced from Buddhism. It took things from Buddhism, but it was not the Buddhist religion. It was general code of conduct for the people to live a happy and meaningful life. And we find the same of kind something in Akbar when he gave his concept of Sul-e-Kul, peace to all. So the thing again is that from times, ancient times to the present day, India has been a dynamic civilization. It has been a nation that is continuously making progress. Today, of course, in this age of internet, social media, our engineers, our doctors, they are second to none in the world. They are making great feats in their fields. In IT industry, Indians are shaping things. So I would say that there has been a continuity of progress. But that whole thought process, that whole, you can say, intellect, or the first seeds of acquiring knowledge, of knowing knowledge, what is knowledge, were planted in ancient India. And from there, this continuity has been carried out. It has continued to medieval, to modern times. Now, 1 hour lecture is not sufficient to reflect on each and every one of them. But the paucity of time doesn't allow me. My whole sole purpose is to make ourselves realize that there's so much to be appreciated, there's so much to reflect upon, there's so much to learn from before we jump to any other things. Okay, we will not say that when enlightenment arose in Europe, when Renaissance came in Europe, human beings started making progressing. No, humans were making progress much before intellect. Our yardstick is to be our own culture, our own tradition and history. And history is in black and white. We should take the white things, we should leave out the black things. Okay, this has been there with everyone. So this, there should be appreciation. And moreover, as I said, the Renaissance was a medieval age phenomena in Europe. Enlightenment was a 16th, 17th century phenomena in Europe. So Europe would have made progress in that period. But to say that Indians also derived their inspiration from those things is a fancy idea. You know, we had our own intellectuals, we had our own great people, we had our own great rulers, we had our own great sages who left behind a vast corpus of literature, a large amount of work. They left lasting legacies for us to count upon, to reflect upon. And the Indian national movement, of course, remains one of the most unique mass movements of the 20th century, where applying the principle of non-violence or ahimsa, we were able to flush out the largest colonial empire of the time. And all these things, modern phenomena, colonialism and imperialism, they are the outcomes of the greed of the West. I mean, how the Europeans were ruling upon the world. What were they doing? What they did to Latin America, what they did to Mexico, what they did in Latin American countries, what they did to Africa, these colonizers, and what they did in India. I mean, the crimes, the evil they perpetuated has not been lost on anyone. So the thing is, this Indian knowledge system and the historical perspective of the Indian knowledge system again is based on wisdom, on intellect, on the thirst to acquire knowledge, to know our world better, and from that to make out, to give out some systems, to give out some things, to give out some unique things in the form of darshan, in the form of religion, in the form of culture, in the form of, I mean, everything is encompassed. If you go into detail, you will find everything is there, in which some advances and some progress was made, and it has been second to none. So I think with this, I will conclude my talk on the historical perspectives of the Indian oil system. And thank you for inviting me, especially my good old friend Zishan Varsi, who was my junior in Aligarh, and to Anshal also, whose brother Aslam Sher was again my junior in the history department, and to all the esteemed uh, organizers of this conference seminar. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for your knowledgeable talk at the event. Your insights and your expertise made a significant impact. We are grateful for you, sir, for your valuable contribution and sharing your knowledge to the national seminar on Indian knowledge system, interdisciplinary insights, and contemporary discourse. Now it's time to vote of thanks to Dr. Zoheb Hasan, sir, by Dr. Pallavi, ma'am. Now over to you, ma'am. Okay. Okay. Javed, sir, wants a question. He want to ask a question to you, sir.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. Is there any participants who want to ask any question to sir? You can comment on the chat box or raise your.
Good morning, sir.
Morning.
Very nice presentation, sir. My
Thank you.
question is, knowledge is socially constructed, debated and negotiated, and is distributed unequally both within any society as well as between societies. Such constructions have implications for power in the ways in which people are differently constructed as subjects are objects, agents, according to different kinds of knowledge. This does not mean, however, that scientific knowledge has not been of great value. But in other words, the criteria of what constitutes knowledge, what is to be excluded, and who is designated as qualified to know involves acts of power. What constitutes knowledge and how the construction of knowledge creates exclusion and subordination of knowledgeable voices thus rest on power interest. Do you think that the Indian knowledge system somehow marginalizes certain groups to maintain power?
Well, to some extent, you can say yes. But my point here is that when I was talking about the dissemination of knowledge, when I was talking about the fruition of knowledge, it should take place from heart. I mean, the people who are espousing the knowledge, who are giving us new things, they should have a good heart. And of course, heart is there. Plus, it is the duty of those who are in power that they should ensure that there is justice to all, that the fruits of knowledge are equally distributed, no one is left behind. Again, here the thrust should be on the sincerity of purpose, and it comes from the heart. If your heart is not noble, whatever knowledge you are telling, you are giving, will be of no use in real sense to the people. And marginalization, of course, it has been there since ancient times, not in Indian history, but in various parts of the world, this has been there. And to list out them, to put them out from this perspective is unfair. It should not be there. Yes.
Sir, thank you.
Well, there's a question by someone who's asking what's the relevance of Manu Smriti. Well, I haven't read Manu Smriti, by the way. I'm not an expert on the ancient law books or Manu Smriti. But I guess that every text has some negative and positive connotations. Okay. And it is left again to the wisdom of our thinkers, our reformers, and social scientists to effectively put these things in perspective, in proper place, and to make the society understand that this is good, this has to be taken, this is bad, this has to be left out. This should be the thing, according to me. No text, no book is 100% black. No book is 100% to be discarded. Whatever good is there, if in any form, it should be taken, and whatever is bad or evil should be discarded.
So a very good morning to you, sir. So myself, Dr. Khwaja Danish Hamid, Assistant Professor of Modern History and International Relations, Department of Humanities and Social Sciences, Integral University.
Yes.
So just a simple question. Wanted to know that why there's a partial absence of women from public and intellectual spaces in ancient India. So if you can throw some light on this, can you elaborate on this?
Well, you see, initially it was not there. If you talk about the early Vedic period, women hold a pride of place in the Vedic society. Later, they were subjugated to some restrictions. Okay. But when I was talking about Kautilya, in his Arthashastra, he has again placed great emphasis on the role of women. He has given women a respectable place in the society. Perhaps the society was in its initial stages, it was just mushrooming, it was just learning. And because we are talking about, say, 3,000, 4,000 years from now, before. So it might be that things were in infancy when it came to women. But we do find evidences, we do find examples of some good things to say about women in different periods of ancient India. But of course, yes, as for the salvation, or you can say, or for the real upliftment of the women, is a phenomena that took place quite late, especially in Hindu society. But in Muslim society also, it was there to some extent. And this remains perhaps one of the, you can say, negative outcomes one of the roadblocks, you can say, in our history and culture. But here again, I'm saying that we do find evidences in certain periods when women did acquire something unique, they got some respectable position in the society.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Dear participants, if you want to interact with sir, if you have any query, then you can ask. Okay. Now I would like to invite Dr. Pallavi ma'am for a vote of thanks. Over to you, ma'am.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Zoheb sir. I am
Morning, madam.
Dr. Pallavi, Assistant Professor of History, Department of Humanities and Social Sciences. And it is my honor to deliver the vote of thanks as you are the senior of Dr. Anshal Ali Tiger. So you are mine senior or mine also. Firstly,
You are also from Aligarh?
yes, sir, I am also from Aligarh. Firstly, I
Okay,
extend
so I must.
yes, sir.
Okay. I must have seen you then there.
No, sir, actually, I am very much junior to you.
I left Aligarh in 2011.
I came Aligarh in 2013, sir.
Okay, oh, of course, then no chance. But it's heartening to know that my juniors are there. They are doing great work in Integral University.
Yes, sir. Okay, so firstly, I extend a heartfelt gratitude to our Dr. Zoheb Hasan sir, head of the Department of History, Pune College of Arts and Science and Commerce, for his enlightening lecture. Sir, your expertise and engaging presentation have provided us with a deeper understanding of the Indian knowledge system, and your contribution has truly enriched our seminar. Thank you, sir, for accepting our request on a very short notice. A big thank you to all the participants for your active involvement. Thank you once again, Dr. Hasan, sir, and thank you for all being here today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Zoheb sir.
Thank you.
You can left, sir.
Okay, okay.
Thank you.
Good morning, sir.
Morning.
So, dear participants, it's time to get interaction with our another guest speaker, Dr. Aslam Khan, sir. Introduction to Dr. Aslam Khan, sir, by Dr. Khurshid Alam, Assistant Professor, Political Science. Sir, over to you.
Hello. Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Khurshid Alam, Assistant Professor, Department of Humanity and Social Sciences, Integral University. Good morning and a warm welcome to third day of our national seminar on Indian knowledge system, interdisciplinary insights and contemporary discourse. It gives me immense pleasure to see such a distinguished gathering of scholars, students, enthusiasts who have shared the passion for exploring, understanding, and profound depth of Indian knowledge and in contemporary relevant. Today, we have honor of welcoming our esteemed guest speaker, Dr. Aslam Khan. Dr. Aslam Khan is an associate professor in the Department of Gandhian and Peace Studies at Mahatma Gandhi Center University, Bihar, India. Illustrious career and diverse academic endeavors make him a beacon of knowledge in the field of political science and Indian knowledge system. Dr. Khan's journey has taken him across various continents and esteemed institutions. He has previously served as a professor of international relations and dean of faculty of science and management. As the head of the Department of Political Science and Administration, Yobe State University, Nigeria, he has also imparted his knowledge as an associate professor of Bahidar University in Ethiopia, and he worked as an assistant professor of political science at Aligarh Muslim University, India. Furthermore, Dr. Khan has enriched the academic landscape of the University of Maduguri, Nigeria, and Amhara Leadership Academy, Ethiopia, as a visiting professor. His commitment to advancing the knowledge extends beyond teaching. Dr. Khan has served as a fellow peace and security at the University of Western Australia, Perth, contributing significantly to research on African politics, US and South Asian relations, Indo-Pacific affairs, peace and conflict studies, and nuclear issues. His extensive research has culminated in notable publications, including book India Energy Diplomacy in Eurasia, Geopolitics and Geoeconomics Perspective, and New Great Game in Indo-Pacific, and Rediscovering India's Pragmatism and Paradoxes. Dr. Khan's scholarly contribution are further highlighted by his chapter in the Encyclopedia Violence and Peace Conflict and numerous articles on African politics, especially concerning Nigeria and Ethiopia. His work is widely recognized and published by the esteemed publishers like Sage and Routledge. In addition to his academic pursuit, Dr. Khan played a pivotal role in the academic community as a member of several editorial boards, including Cambridge Scholar, Springer, Routledge. He is an associate editor of the Journal of Liberty and International Affairs, serve as a reviewer of numerous international peer-reviewed journals. His active participation in the international conferences and associations such as the International Political Science Association, International Studies Association, Midwest Political Science Association, and Indian Political Science Association further underscores his dedication of the field. We are indeed privileged to have Dr. Khan with us today. His insights and extensive experience will undoubtedly enrich our understanding of the interdisciplinary aspect of the Indian knowledge system and its contemporary discourse. Please join me extending heartfelt welcome to Dr. Aslam Khan. What to you, sir? Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Khurshid, for a long introduction. First of all, my salam and greetings to each and everybody present here. First of all, I offer my sincere thanks to the department, especially Department of History. I also offer my thanks to the Dean, Professor Zeva, for extending the invitation to me. I am also thankful to the other faculty members. I can see here Dr. Zoheb Hasan, Dr. Shoaib Hasan, and I am highly grateful to Dr. Anshal Ali Tiger for the invitation, who contacted me when I was on vacation in Nainital, and I couldn't refuse the invitation since he is also from the AMU. I am also this old student of the AMU. So I am highly thankful at last for this invitation. Today I am going to speak since I am a student of peace and I am teaching peace. So I am going to speak on the Indian knowledge system, peace and Mahatma Gandhi. When we see Indian knowledge system, it has been the most debating issue since the time immemorial, but it gets momentum from last decade. The various practices pertaining to the old Indian traditions and education system has been the center of attraction. And since last year, it has gained momentum. So the new education policy, the change of laws, Indian laws in IPC with Indian centric names, and by the current government are having this kind of the reflection that all this kind of the Indianization or the Indian practices should be reflected in all forms of governance. So India has been a leader of peaceful coexistence, and I will speak upon the aspect of Indian knowledge tradition, peace, and Mahatma Gandhi. So India, a land of unique diversity, where we have unity in diversity. And India has passed through various phases of the construction of ideology of peace and non-violence, as India produced the world icon of peace and harmony like Mahatma Buddha, Mahavir Swami, Gandhi, Nehru, etc. So moreover, by strengthening harmony, one of the most practical aspects of non-violence, or we call it ahimsa, they have been attracting the attention of the people of the world, not only from India. So this legacy has been conveying the adaptable message of peace to all, in general and particular. And many pages of the world history are evident of those who desired peace and in search of it visited India from time to time. And influenced by the Indian concept of the peace, not only Greeks and Chinese, but many other attracted to the land of peace. So they stayed here for several periods and years and months. So they studied the Indian way in which universal acceptance is nucleus and reached back to their respective countries with exemplary and welfaristic Indian message of peace. So beside, I can give example here, beside Chinese travelers like Fa Hin, Sun An, Hin Sang, and Greek travelers like Megasthenes, Hippolytus, and Cosmas, many other too from the central, southeast, and southwest, and other places of the Asia visited Nalanda, the ancient knowledge wisdom in India, Tashila, Varanasi, Vikramshila, so the renowned Indian center of higher education, knowledge, and learning in their respective periods. But Indian philosophy, knowledge, and universal acceptance pace its way become the source of inspiration for all of them. Furthermore, ahimsa based practices of Indians and their goal of achieving peace, attracting all of them here. So during their visits and stay, they perceived Indian concept of peace. They went to its depth and found it to be unique in various senses. So now it is very much natural to discern what the Indian concept of peace is. So in fact, the root of the concept could be found in the exemplary approach of universal acceptance, which developed centuries ago in India. Because when we study peace, or when then we see that Johann Galtung, the father of peace, just passed away. Then so many peace philosophers like Ledreck, the other Wolfgang. So these are the peace icons that we are seeing from the Western perspective. But we Indians are having this concept of peace since a long time, since ancient time. So the source of this concept has been the various religious texts, such as Vedic literature, Buddhist literature, Jain's literature, and also the Islamic literature, especially the Sufi influence of the Sufi practices in India. So the development of this concept could also be seen in the teachings of those philosophies which called upon the people to carry out their daily activities on the basis of non-violence, ahimsa, peaceful coexistence, and other valued or the other values added to it. So according to the basic concept of peace, peace doesn't mean something static or perpetuation of the status quo. It has to do nothing with the inactiveness. Also, compulsions has no place in it. So rather, a peace is an active force. It is dynamic. It offers that force to the individual, which develops the dynamic strength of the people to a degree that will enable to meet any situation. So the peace creates enthusiasm in man. It brings a human being out of the domain of individualism and inspires him to do something more for the group, for the society. So the essence of the Indian concept of peace remains in the reality of achieving the goal. So according to the Indian concept of peace, individual is basic source of its creation and development. In the other words, human being is the first center of peace. That is why activities, their behavior, practices are firstly responsible for the creation and development of peace. Afterwards, from individual to community level, is its furthering step. And this process has possibilities to further advancement and success in all situations and circumstances. Therefore, from community level to the social level and from national to international level, this process can step by step achieve the set goals. And the great idea of Vasudeva Kutumbakam, which we call a whole world is a family, which occupies the foremost place in the Indian philosophy and the way, and which itself is the best dimension in the process of peace, it can be feasible. So I will touch upon here Mahatma Gandhi, who was one of the great men of the world history, who were recognized as the true peacemaker in their respective times. His core philosophy was to practice non-violence, and philosophers like Tolstoy, uh, they said that Gandhi was the best contemporary committed to the morality and ethics, and he was an expert of uh, countering inhumanity by high human values. So clearly, not only in India, but in the whole world, Mahatma Gandhi was accepted a unique preacher or propagator of peace. He became a role model for his contemporaries and generations to come. Therefore, his peaceful effort, he inspired many in the world. In this regard, the enthusiasm and activeness shown by him become exemplary for millions, not only in India, but outside the world. And without any doubt, in the root of that enthusiasm and activeness was the Gandhi's harmony with the Indian concept of peace. So in his individual part of life, Gandhi moved forward in the search of truth, and constant development of non-violence was the means of that particular search. And it was during the course of that search that he worked for the welfare of the common people, which was without a doubt a work for the establishment of peace, and is what it can also be termed as a dimension on the way to peace. But it was his greatness that after doing exemplary work for humanity, he neither made any claim over this or nor desired credit for that particular work. He simply said that he followed the Sanatan tradition of India, which inspired a human being to carry out his or her duties for humanity. And one thing very important I want to convey here, that Gandhi was the firm believer of Hinduism. Despite that, he was respecting each religion. He referred in his philosophy, in his peace philosophy, he referred Islam, he referred Jain, he referred Buddhism. So all the religions are now culminated into the philosophy of peace. So this was the and his my life is message. Gandhi says, if I want a freedom, I will quote here, if I want freedom for my country, believe me, I do not want that freedom in order that I belonging to a nation which counts 1/5 of the human race may exploit any other race upon earth or any single individual. If I want that freedom for any country, I would not be deserving of that freedom if I do not cherish and preserve the equal right of every race, weak or strong, to the same freedom, unquote. So this was the main essence of Gandhi's philosophy. But Gandhi believed on non-violence. So what actually is non-violence? Non-violence is a strategy of using peaceful method as opposed to the forceful method to bring about the political or social change. And Gandhi traced the origin of non-violence, as I told earlier, in religious ancient text. And he was of the view that no religion in the world has explained the principle of non-violence so deeply and very systematically as is discussed with its applicability in every human life in Jainism. As and when the benevolent principle of non-violence will be ascribed for practice by the people of the world to achieve their end of life in this world and beyond. So Jainism is sure to have the uppermost status, and Lord Mahavira is sure to be respected as the greatest authority when we talk of Gandhian non-violence. So non-violence was Gandhi's, it was not Gandhi's creation or invention, we can say, but he practiced non-violence and brought non-violence into the action and set the examples before the world as how non-violence can achieve its objectives. Acharya Kriplani said that Gandhi was the first in human history to extend the principle of non-violence from the individual to social and the political plane. So what Gandhi's view of non-violence actually based on the two forms of violence Gandhi identified, that one is passive, second is physical. And Gandhi's core philosophy is surrounding around Satyagraha. And Satyagraha was not just a means of non-violent struggle, but it became the kind of philosophy of the life of Gandhi. By giving the concept of Satyagraha, Gandhi showed mankind to win over greed and fear by love. So in this principle of non-violence, Mahatma Gandhi introduced the technique of resistance to evil and untruth. So Gandhi translated ahimsa or non-violence as love. And love is the center of Gandhi's contribution to the philosophy of non-violence. And various philosophers or various contemporaries of that particular time, they said, like, I will give example of Stanley Jones here, that he said that Satyagraha is the quintessence of the Gandhism. Through the Satyagraha, Gandhi introduced a new spirit to the world, and it is the greatest of the all Gandhi's contribution to the world. If we see the modern movements throughout the world or in India, all are having Gandhi's legacy. When we see sit-ins strike or hunger strikes, these all were the tools of the Gandhian Satyagraha. So Satyagraha has been the quintessence of the Gandhism. So thus, the only way of Gandhi getting to the truth is by non-violence or love. So it follows that Satyagraha implies an unwavering search for the truth using non-violence. And Satyagraha was not a preconceived plan for Gandhi. And these were so many factors. And one of the most important factors among them is brahmacharya. That prepared Gandhi for it. And he therefore said that events were so shaping themselves in Johannesburg. I will give example here as to make this self-purification on my part, preliminary as it were to the Satyagraha. I can now see that all the principal events of my life culminating in the war of brahmacharya were secretly preparing me for it. So Gandhi actually proclaimed that brahmacharya prepared Gandhi for the Satyagraha. And Satyagraha, Gandhi termed as a moral weapon, and the state is on the soul force over the physical force. And it aims at winning the enemy through love and patient suffering, that we have seen in whole freedom struggle, how the self-suffering, the Gandhian supporters or the Gandhi suffered by the Britishers. So it aims at winning over an unjust law, not in crushing, punishing, or taking revenge against the authority, but to convert and heal it. So though it started as a struggle for political rights, Satyagraha became in the long run a struggle for individual salvation, which could be achieved through love and self-sacrifice. So Satyagraha is meant to overcome all method of violence according to Gandhi. And Satyagraha teaches the art of living well as dying. It is love and unshakable firmness that comes from it, and its training is meant for all. So irrespective of age and sex, the most important training is mental, not physical. Because the basic guidelines of Satyagraha are based on the three pillars like truth, non-violence, number 3, Satyagraha, or tapasya, sorry, it's or self-suffering or tyag. So these are the three core pillars of Satyagraha. Satya means truth, implying openness, honesty, and fairness. Ahimsa means the refusal to inflict injury upon others, and tapasya means willingness to self-sacrifice. And for Gandhi, what is truth? For Gandhi, the truth is relative term. So man is not capable of knowing the absolute truth, and Satyagraha implies working steadily towards the discovery of the absolute truth and converting the opponent into a train in the working process. And what a person sees as a truth may just as clearly be the untrue for the another, because truth may be different for others, and it can't be equal, because all the individuals are having different perspective, different ideas. And Gandhi made his life a numerous experiment with the truth. In holding to the truth, he claims to be making a ceaseless effort to find it. And Gandhi's concept of truth is, I told you earlier, is deeply rooted in different religious philosophy. In Hinduism also, the emphasis on Satya is paramount in the writings of the Indian philosophers. I will give example here, Satya Nasti Parodharmati. It means there is no religion or duty greater than the truth. It holds a prominent place in Hinduism too, and reaching pure and absolute truth is attaining moksha according to the Hinduism. And I will give one example here of Mahabharata. Mahabharata has been the a text of a great war, and there has been multiple mention of the phrase ahimsa paramo dharma, that we say that, which means the non-violence is the highest moral virtue. And I will give an example here in this ahimsa paro dharmati. It is mentioned here that ahimsa is the highest virtue. Ahimsa is the highest self-control. Ahimsa is the greatest gift. Ahimsa is the best suffering. Ahimsa is the highest sacrifice. Ahimsa is the finest strength. Ahimsa is the greatest friend. Ahimsa is the greatest happiness. Ahimsa is the greatest truth. And Ahimsa is the greatest teaching. So it was from Mahabharata. So Satyagraha, truth is inseparable from Ahimsa. Ahimsa expresses, as ancient Hindu, Jain, and Buddhism ethical percept I told you earlier, it is a multi-dimensional concept inspired by the premise that all living beings have the spark of the divine spiritual energy, because we are living in a highly religious society, either it is Hinduism, Islam, or Buddhism, Christianism, any sort of your sect. So therefore, to hurt another being is to hurt oneself. It was a core message of the Gandhi. So the concept of ahimsa got prominence, place in various religious texts, and to make the concept of ahimsa meaningful in the social and political spheres by modeling tools for non-violent action, to use a positive force in the search for the social and political truth. So active social techniques, which was to challenge political authorities used by Gandhi, is none other than Satyagraha. Now, in the contemporary society, we are seeing a lot of problems in Indian society, either with the farmers, either with the minorities, or the other communities like tribals. Or so that we can see the Gandhian footprint. Either we see the farmer movements, either we see this CAA or this regarding the Citizenship Amendment Act. So many sit-ins and so many practices of Gandhi were witnessed, that Gandhi has been the icon either for the this generation or the coming generation or the past generation for his concept of Satyagraha. So in concept of Satyagraha, self-suffering is the most important part. Self-suffering in Satyagraha is a test of love. When you are in love with someone, then you have to pass a test of love. So it is detected first of all towards the much persuasion of one whom is undertaken. And Gandhi distinguished self-suffering from cowardice. So Gandhi's choice of self-suffering doesn't mean that he valued life low. It is rather a sign of voluntary help, and it is noble and morally enriching. So Satyagraha is at its best when preached and practiced by those who would use arms but decided instead to invite suffering upon them. Because in freedom struggle, or in this recent protest against the CAA farmers movement, there was lathi charge, there was tear gas was there. So it was a test. It was a kind of test that because people were suffering from that particular thing, but they need not to be violent. So the three elements, truth, non-violence, and tapasya, they move together for the success of any movement or any Satyagraha campaign. So it was the idea of Gandhi, I must say here, and a lot of movements that were influenced by a philosophy of non-violence, like British rule in India, then Nelson Mandela's struggle against apartheid in South Africa, then Martin Luther King, James Webber. So many examples are here of Gandhian non-violent method in their campaign to win civil rights for African Americans. If we give the example of Martin Luther King, then Cesar Chavez campaign of non-violence in 1960s to protest the treatment of farm workers in California, then Velvet Revolution. Then so many examples we can take, and a recent example I gave you here. And if we see the contemporary society from the lens of ancient Indian traditions, or the concept of the peace, or the Gandhian understanding of peace, then we can see that Gandhi was relevant in the past, Gandhi is relevant today, and Gandhi will be relevant for the future generations. I think I don't know the time limit, and I'm just concluding my talk here. And I will welcome the debate and discussion, or the comment and recommendation if anyone has. And if further the time permits, I can speak more on it. But I touch upon all aspects of the ancient Indian traditions of knowledge, its journey to peace, and its implications to the contemporary society and the world. Thank you very much for extending the invitation to me. And now I open the floor for comment and discussion. Thank you.
Sir, you have time.
I
to
have
continue
time.
your lecture. Yeah.
Okay, so if I have time, so I will just take these practices to the contemporary examples. Since the current world is suffering more from this problem of violence, and everywhere you can see that society is highly destabilized, and this principle becomes more important in the contemporary period, because we see a form of, that Machiavellian discourse in the current time. On the one hand, the global powers or the countries who are having much power, they are talking of the peace, they are talking of human rights. On the other hand, their practices are different. Why I said it is Machiavellian? Because when they talk of human right, when they talk of peace, and at the backdrop, they are the people who are just planning those kind of the destabilization. Take the current example of the Ukraine, for instance. These Western powers, they are fighting in the name of liberty, in the name of fairness of the international system. But when we see the international system, it is the full of anarchy. We can take the example of Palestine, for instance, because when we see the implication of the responsibility to protect that was implied in Libya in 2003, when Gaddafi was ousted on the basis of that these are the violation of the grave violation of the human rights. But when it comes to the Palestine, then the situation is different, because we never know what is the different, what are the definitions of the grave crimes against the humanity that is Palestinians are suffering in the present time. Take the example of in Afghanistan. They came in the names of the change, in the name of democracy, in the name of the establishing a fair order. But what happened? They left Afghanistan in a vulnerable situation, and the influx of the refugees in whole world. These are the problems that we are currently facing. And very interesting fact is that when we thought that the end of the colonialism was happened earlier, but we see the new form of colonialism, that so many satellite governments, even so many different kind of the governance, that they don't have any problem if they are following the practices of the unilateral, or I must say the sole superpower. But you can take the example of, for example, in the Middle East, all are having monarchy, but they don't have problem with them. Only the nation who are moving against the wind, against their wishes, they are on the target. So these kind of the practices we are witnessing in the current time, and the peace is the most important discourse. But the unfortunate part is, I told you, it is a Machiavellian kind of the order that we are witnessing in the present time. Even America calls it the greatest democracy in the world, and there are discrimination against the people, and so many movements were there. Black Lives Matters movement was there in the recent time, and so many different racial practices are happening in America. So how can you claim that you are the champion of human rights when one is doing carpet bombing on civilians, on the animals? Because when you are doing carpet bombing, you know that the catastrophic effect of those particular things. And on the other end, you are just now sending food for oil. So this is a kind of strategy the world is happening because of the hegemonic tendencies and the control on all the world bodies by the Western powers. The nations are not in position, because if you see the United Nations, for instance, I am just giving the contemporary examples, then I will come to the implication of peace in that particular area. So I'm not deviating from the topic that I was discussing earlier. So if you will see the United Nations in the present time, the largest portion of the world don't have the representation over there, as all the permanent members, the P5, are having the powers. Whenever the issue comes to their welfare or the change in the structure of the United Nations, then it is of no avail, because those P5 are reluctant to have that particular power. In on the issue of the Palestine, there was a peace resolution for the ceasefire, but it was not successful because Western powers doesn't want to stop that particular genocide in Palestine, or different kind of that interest they have. So the thing is that on the one hand, the United Nations was established to save the succeeding generation from the scourge of war. and what is the relevance of that particular organizations when the Africa don't have the fair representation. India is having a India is the largest democracy, but don't have a say in United Nations in terms of the veto power. So the interest of those particular population that is considering more than 50% of that world population, they are not getting a fair representation, and the body is established for peace and that stopping the catastrophe of war is failed now. So this kind of the things that we are witnessing now, same is the case with the different governance. They are in democracy, it is the biggest flaw that minorities or the other vulnerable groups don't have any say, because when Aristotle defined it, perverted form of the democracy is the mobocracy. So mobocracy we are witnessing in all aspect, not in India, the rise of populism or the populist leader throughout the world. Europe is also not excluded from it. So it is happening just because the disturbances created by those powers, because when you are bombarding some countries, the people are running here and there as a refugees. And you can take the case of Rohingya, for instance. You can take the refugees from the Middle East. You can take the example of refugees from the different African countries, because all these Western powers are having their interests over there, and their foreign policy actually surrounding it, how to grab the resources of those vulnerable groups or the group of nations. So this kind of the problems are happening. Now it comes to the solution of it. The solution lies in the discussion, solution lies in the negotiations, because when we talk of Gandhi, Gandhi was a great proponent of negotiation, dialogues, discussion, and a peaceful solution of a particular problem. So the peace is a highest kind of, that virtue that can establish a kind of the culture. When we talk of equality, when we talk of liberty, when we talk of different democratic concept related to it. So these concepts are not relevant when you don't have enough power. So as a result, most of the developing nations, they are going for the nuclear. And all the developed nations, they already having nuclear, they are developing their nuclear arsenal. So where the world is heading and what to do? This is a serious question, because in the recent report, Russia is developing nuclear arsenals. So in the case with the US, so this is happening, and there are exchange of nuclear threats. And when we are living in a country of Gandhi, then you see the current status of our relationship with the neighbors. We don't have good neighbors with Nepal. We don't have good relations with Pakistan, with Sri Lanka, the Maldives. So all the countries of what wrong with our policies? Where we are lacking when we are having the legacy of Gandhi, Nehru, Buddha, Mahavir Jain, and Guru Nanak. So where we are lacking actually, where our values went. So in the contemporary politics, I see the values, ethics are at the low level, and the realistic discourse is at the highest level, I must say. So the Indian policy, there were more ethical, more human-centric before 10, 15 years. Then you can see the shift in Palestinian policy and the other the policy with the other nations. So this is a clear shift that we are just moving from idealism to the realism and to the extreme realism in the contemporary politics. So the question is that when we are having a kind of Gandhian legacy, the various concepts, because we Indian are considered even in the contemporary world politics as a peace-loving countries, because India is a country who never threatened any nation before. So this legacy, Gandhi, Nehru, for instance, he went for the non-alignment movement when the two great rivalries were there. So it was our policy before, and it was greatly benefited India or Indian citizens by its own way. But in the contemporary policies that we can see that Gandhi actually has been a kind of, that ceremonial figure. And the importance of Gandhi, we can see that all the dignitaries coming from the Western countries or the other parts of the world, they are just going to the place of Gandhi at Rajghat, and the government functionaries, they are taking them there, but their practices actually are not being taken seriously by either with the government or the establishment or the other actors involved in it, because the civil society is a core for Gandhi. If civil society, what Gandhi did, he united people against the Britishers for achieving the goals, because the society was highly divided earlier also, because communalism was at peak when Gandhi took the affairs of took the lead of this Indian national movement. So now the civil society's role becomes very important here, because if society is not going to that change the behavior it is having in the present time, so the problems are not minimizing but rather maximizing, because until unless we are not going to follow the Gandhian principles, not only in the case of India or the other parts of the world, because peace, negotiations, dialogue, discussions, respect of each other, culture, view, it is a very important for establishing peace or the peaceful culture. So if Gandhi becomes more relevant, and if we revisit our Indian knowledge traditions or the Indian traditions of the peace, that how peacefully we lived and how peacefully we deal with our affairs, how peacefully we achieve freedom, how peacefully we lived from the centuries, because India is a cultural capital of the world. If one culture is dominating on the other culture, automatically the conflict occurs. So we need to respect other cultures. We need to give the space to the other cultures, identity, or the people in order to achieve a greater peace or the lasting peace. So thank you very much. I would welcome more the comment and observations. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for your insightful talk. You have enlightened us with your lecture and enriched our knowledge. You have graced our event by sharing your valuable thoughts. Now we have our faculty member, Dr. Khwaja Danish, sir. He want to ask a question.
So a very good afternoon to you, sir. Thank you for your enlightening presentation, sir.
Your voice is so low. Please.
Sir, I'm Khwaja Danish Hamid, sir. Mic on.
I can't hear.
Hello?
Yeah,
Okay.
now it's okay.
Sir, my first question is how to avoid structural violence in contemporary world dominated by anti-dumping duties and sanctions?
Okay. You give the example of the structural violence. So, because I told you earlier, all the bodies, world bodies, if you talk of United Nations or IMF or WTO or the other like World Bank, these are dominated by the Western powers. And it is very much true. It is a kind of the structure that we see a different thing and we perceive the different things. In the case of in case of India, that the extreme poverty and unemployment, it's a part of structural violence. In the same way, these third world countries of the global south is having the same kind of the fate by the British powers. I told you that until unless we are going to change the structure of these bodies or the structure of the societies, we are not going to achieve any sort of relief from this structural violence, because structural violence has become more debating topic in the present time, because in lot of the problems in India because of this structural violence is we have Naxals, we have the separatist problem, we have the problem of the human security just because of this structural violence. So until unless the world power or the structure of the world power, behavior of the world power, attitude of the world powers are going to be changed. And if there is a kind of, that discrimination on the basis of the economy, then this problem is not going to be solved. On the one hand, they are taking all the resources either from the global south, because these countries are underdeveloped. They are having technologies, because I am having on-field experience of Africa. Then I saw that in Ethiopia and Nigeria is an oil-producing country. How much share the country is having and how much share these Western companies are taking. So this is a kind of discrimination at the micro level, because in the development process, the country needs development either at any cost, because once you don't have any technology, then you will invite those particular companies and they will take their own benefit. It is just one example of that. But at the international system until unless the system is going to be changed, because in this fractured world order, I must say, in the contemporary time, the nations are very much vocal in terms of currency trade either, or in terms of the reform in the United Nations. When these things are going to be happened, definitely we are going to have some relief in terms of the sexual violence. Thank you.
Movement and Panchsheel principle in contemporary world order dominated by realism. Don't you think that it reflects dysfunctional foreign policy? Thank you, sir.
I will not comment here on the foreign policy is dysfunctional, because the foreign policy actually it evolves the various actors, various politics around us, and various kind of the change in world order or the world politics. I must say here, because if you see the whole discourse of political parties, either of the party, I will not comment on a particular party here. On the one hand, when Manmohan Singh started this liberalization policy after 1991, then these foreign actors attracted here. And the kind of the politics India was having a kind of the sort of mix of idealism and realism in terms of having interest. But now we are seeing there is a shift in world politics when we are having enemies in our different fronts, like East and West. We are having China and Pakistan, and we are having a fragile neighborhood. So the country need to be more powerful, and power is the basic structure in realism. The country that reflects more and more power, and that particular country is successful in terms of gaining the interest from the either from the foreign policy, either from the different things. So the national interests are paramount in terms of foreign policy. So if we go by our national interest, we can see that we need help from because we are having we don't have any good relations with the neighborhood. Automatically, India needs a strong partnership with the West for the development of the defense, or a powerful defense. And in the same way, we can see encircling of India by China with different neighbors of India. They are having different bases in either in Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Pakistan. So India is under compulsion to perceive that particular policy that is benefited for the survival of the nations, because in realist politics, it is a survival of the fittest. So India is in the race of the fittest nation, because India is an emerging power, and West badly need India to counter the Chinese offensives. So in this regard, if we see the India is perceiving a kind of policy, but at the domestic level, I must say, when in the national interest, domestic policy is also very much important factor. So India, actually, when we see the slogans of the government that they are with everybody, they belongs to everybody, and they want the development of everyone. But in practices, so the policy comes like that. Policy doesn't discriminate with anyone. But the kind of, that politics that is based on communalism, either based on the caste either, then this becomes a problem. Because when you are having a political base on the structure of casteism, communalism, and the communal and any election of India doesn't conclude without having reference of Pakistan, without referencing of Muslims and or a particular community. So, but this is very important that when we see the institutions in India, like election commissions or other bodies, because it must be a policy that nobody in a country should give a reference of a particular community or to win the election. But it is happening in India. So we need some kind of the structural changes or the structural reforms, I must say. So perceiving a realist policy is not a bad option in the if we give an overview of the India's neighborhood, or if we give an we take an overview of the world politics. So I don't consider that it is a bad move by India, but it is a need of time, because our presence in the world politics should be matter.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Dear participants, one by one, you all can interact with the sir. You can unmute your mic or put your comments or query on the chat box. So we have a question. Can you see the chat box? Sir? So unmute your mic, sir.
I'm just reading.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, it's a very good question. That the question is that the Western nations or the other parts of the world, Gandhi is being mostly acknowledged, but in India, when we see the Gandhi's contribution, then it is somehow low if we compare to the Western world. Yeah, it is true that Western values actually, when we see the civil societies of the Western world, for take the example of the Europe, for instance, that civil society is too strong, and the real the picture of democracy or the democratic values we can see in most of the European countries, where they are having equality, we are having kind of good justice system. And whenever you are just lacking in these kind of principles, where whole foundation of the state is established, because in a democratic state, a person surrenders his or her sovereignty to the state just because he is going to have a guarantee of its fundamental rights of in a very right to life, freedom, equality, justice. If anything that is lacking, then there is a problem, and there will be a protest, and the Gandhian values or the different kind of the non-violent strategies will be employed, because in democracies every citizen is having right to protest. So this kind of the things becomes bigger. But in case of India, because I told you that some of the factors in Indian democracy are more dominant of the rather than these principles like communalism, casteism, or different kind of that designs we are having in Indian politics, because it is not only limited to India. Now in the Europe also, the far right groups are being dominated, and even in last US President Trump, he was also came up with the right of the white people. And so this kind of the trend is developing not only in India, but in whole world. It is very dangerous. So if even if we compare our this third world democratic stature with the Western one, then the thing is that they are more educated toward the democracy. They are more concerned of democracy. If we see the people of India, when the election comes, these are sale of votes, even for the petty things like for the liquor, for the money. So this kind of the things are happening here. This kind of the things are not happening in the West, because people in India, most of the vulnerable section, they knows that it is a kind of the opportunity for them to gain something. So, but it is very unfortunate in the case of the global south or the third world, because this kind of the fragile nature of the democracy is happening each and everywhere. But if we see the Western democracies, they are much successful. Even you see the current British politics, that the kind of the policy Rishi Sunak he brought up in terms of that bringing in this kind of that authoritarian attitude, and this party is going to lose badly. The trends are coming, because the people are much aware that what is good for them. But unfortunately, in India, people are confused somehow, and they don't know actually what they want, because the core issues that opposition is discussing in India, like poverty, like unemployment, a lot of the fair representation. But on the other hand, people are more that focused on because we live in a highly culturally or religiously country, but the people prefer more kind of the things that are not beneficial for them. But on the other hand, they are just compromising their own rights, their own kind of the benefits for the sake of that. This is the difference between why we are not so focused on Gandhi, because Gandhi talk of communal harmony in a first, because untilness we are going to have a communal harmony, we are not going to achieve what actually Gandhi said. And unity, we want Gandhi's second principle. So the unity, cultural diversity, we should respect. Then only the Gandhi will be respected in anywhere, not only in India. So the Western world actually having more focus on the Gandhian values of the peace. So I agree with your idea. So thank you very much. Next, please.
Thank you for answering our queries, sir. Now it's time for vote of thanks to Dr. Aslam
Thank you,
Khan,
sir.
Participants, you have to ask any question?
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Do we have more questions from our participants? Okay, so I would like to invite Dr. Anshul Ali Tiger, sir, for vote of thanks to Aslam Khan, sir.
Good afternoon, everyone. Myself, Dr. Anshul, Assistant Professor of History at Department of Humanities and Social Sciences, Integral University. And it is my honor to deliver the vote of thanks. Firstly, I would like to extend our heartfelt gratitude to Dr. Aslam Khan, Assistant Professor and Department of Gandhian and Peace Studies, School of Social Sciences, Mahatma Gandhi Central University, for his enlightening lecture on the Indian knowledge system, peace, and Mahatma Gandhi. Sir, your expertise and engaging presentation have provided us with a deeper understanding of the Indian knowledge system, and your contribution has truly enriched our seminar. Thank you, sir, for accepting our request on the very short notice and sparing time with us from your vacation. We are really grateful for that, sir. And big thank you to all the participants for your active participation in this session. So thank you once again, Dr. Aslam, sir, and thank you all for being here today.
Most welcome. You are most welcome.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you all for the opportunity. Thank you all. I should take leave now?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, dear participants, it's time for a short break. We'll continue our next session, the valedictory session, at 12:45 p.m. So kindly join the session after break. Thank you.